Good morning, Matt.
Rick, how are you, my friend?
Doing well. Hey, we're already busting jokes. We haven't even started yet.
Yeah, you were just reminding me of one of our podcasts. We were talking about aliens. I completely forgot about that.
Well, I think we
were going to turn into aliens.
I think we wrapped it up with me saying, "Peace out, my little alien," to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of your new nickname.
Little alien?
Getting a smooth gray body and your head's going to be large and shiny.
It's the future.
That's right. That's what we'll turn into in the future. So what's cracking, man? Did you watch the Olympics?
I did. I didn't get into it as much this year. I don't know what it was.
Well, the viewership was way down. They said it was a little disjointed. Like the time difference made it tough. And then the way they had like a lot of channels showing all kinds of obscure events that you couldn't, I found for me anyway, it was hard for me to just flip on the TV and find what I was looking for. And a lot of times, you know, if I would get some kind of like ESPN alert maybe on the app and I would already know who was going to win. And they would show the main event. Yeah, they would show the main event that night. Yeah, because if that was the case, you could just YouTube like that particular race and they would just show you with all the pomp and circumstance leading up to it. But did you see where I think the Americans, obviously we had the best medal count, right? The most medals with China being behind us. And then we also edged out China for the most gold medals by one.
Nice.
Yep. And our medal count was mainly carried by the women. So shout out to the U.S. women's teams of all kinds and athletes because they were over 60%, I believe, of our total medal count came from our women.
Yeah, they rocked out. The coolest one I saw, there was like a knee kayak. Or something.
I watched that.
That is awesome.
That looks like so hard. Yes.
They're on one knee just getting it.
19 years old.
Yeah, she was a beast.
Yeah, and I was looking at her arms like a little bit of envy, I have to say.
Yeah, she's definitely jacked. Beat me up.
Yeah, well, duh. But yeah, shout out to the American women. And overall, I mean, the Olympics are awesome. Like a lot of drama, lots of cool stories this year. But I don't know. I mean, obviously in our business, you know, we are into physical things. So athletics are cool.
I'm going to start an Olympic gym.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. You know what? That's going to be a good segue into our topic today. And we didn't even plan this.
This is all I have to do.
As he does. He just tees it up and lets me talk like an idiot. Winds me up and I walk around like that little doll in circles. But that's actually a funny segue into what we're talking about today, which is just things that I've noticed in the difference between selling to a franchise, right, or selling to a franchise candidate versus the last 20 years of my life, which has been working with independent entrepreneurs. Not as many.
Right.
I mean, we did obviously a lot of work with franchise corporate, and we had some franchise locations that we work with.
Yes.
But a lot of our business and certainly speaking circuits that I was on, we were mainly speaking to independent owners.
Yeah.
Versus
just a bunch of one-offs. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, you know, it's great in its own right, but it's so different than what we currently see and what I'm dealing with on the daily basis, which is selling and speaking to franchise candidates. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about the difference because I've had people that I know that are friends in the industry that have asked me, why did you go to franchising? And I have potential franchise candidates who want to know like what the difference is, right? Like should I do my own gym? I guess to be honest, they're not even asking that. I think it's just an interesting observation that we can talk about. It won't take long. So,
all right.
So Matt says, so profound. Okay. Cool. So here's the difference that I see, and I think it's just a lesson to be learned for entrepreneurs, is that the question should be, who does your business serve? And when I ask that, what I mean by that, or what I'm inferring by that through that question is, a lot of times the independent entrepreneur, if they have any misgivings personally or fanaticism, which a lot of them do, right? Or they've got a squirrel brain, ADHD, whatever those things, diagnosed or not, whatever these things are, all that stuff ends up manifesting itself in their business. So what their business is actually there to do is to serve them personally. Right? Sure.
Yeah.
I think in another conversation, you and I brought up something like this, and you brought up CrossFit as an example. And so when you looked at the low barrier of entry to get into a CrossFit when they were at their height as a brand, and the what type of owner was getting into CrossFit, it was typically like a consumer, right? Someone who really believed in it.
Really liked working out, did CrossFit.
I'm a firefighter. I like CrossFit. It's amazing. I'm going to open a CrossFit because I think it's amazing. That's opening a business that serves you. And then you might hope altruistically that you like touch a few people in your community, and you might have had 50 or 60 members in there that shared your passion for this particular modality, but it's not a business, right? And as we've seen, like as the market's righted itself, many of those have gone, by the wayside and gone out of business because it's just not sustainable. And if I'm honest, you really opened it for selfish reasons, and that's okay as long as you knew that, right? Don't pretend that you're opening a business for the right reasons when really you're opening it because it's going to serve your crazy ass personality.
Sure.
You're unemployable in some ways, right? And you are a kettlebell guru. And so you're going to open a kettlebell gym where people have to be barefoot every time they work out because that gets them connected to the earth. And there's just all these things that are just...
Have you been in a gym like that?
Yes, of course. There's a million of those out there, right? It's like we joked about one before where you have to give a stool sample at the gym because they're really into gut flora. And typically if you talk to these people, it's something that they've personally experienced. Like if I have stomach problems or something, then everybody needs to get a stool sample. I'm like, all right, dude, like it might just be you, right? Or if I have, if I'm a cardio person, then everybody needs to do what I do. It's a little bit of the coach disassociating their needs from what's best for the client. And we've talked about how important that is. It's very similar in the business. The problem is with a business is you got so much more on the line that you really need to make sure the purpose of your business should be you define a gap in the market and you build a business or a machine, if you will, which is a business that serves that gap in the market. So I guess the ultimate question is, does the business serve you personally and your likes and dislikes and whatever, neurosis or, that you have, or does it serve the market? And I think the big difference that we see between independent gym owners and franchisees is franchisees are business first. They're typically, they're financially qualified, so they've already been successful in some regard in some area of their lives. They've saved up a bunch of money. They recognize there's a gap in the market. And they may not even be shopping specifically for fitness. I think everyone thinks fitness is cooler than, duct cleaning or something like that. But at the end of the day, your business is there to serve a market and do it better than anyone else, right? At a better price point or do, better value, whatever that is, right? That's what a business is there to do. A business is not there to serve you. And if it is, you're probably going to suffer. Your business is going to suffer because of it, because any type of, again, neurosis or any kind of like crazy, habits that you have, or, if you're squirrel brain and you like to do a million different things, that's going to end up manifesting itself in your business. I mean, how many folks have you and I talked to, Matt, through coaching programs where, they're sitting on one brick and mortar with 75 clients or something, which is okay. That's great. Servicing your community. But before they can commit to continue to do the work into that same, again, it's like, think inside the box instead of outside the box. They talk to us and they're like, hey, I want to start a podcast. And I'm like, well, let me get this straight.
You have 30 members.
Right. You've got 75 members. You draw from maybe a 3 to 5 mile radius, and you want to start a podcast to speak to who? People in the 3 to 5 mile radius?
Right.
Right. That's not it.
It's making a difference.
Right. Well, you're such a smartass. No, let's be honest. You're starting that podcast because someone else has a podcast. You might like to consume podcasts and you want your voice to be heard as well.
Sure.
So by gosh, I have things to say. I want the world to hear me. I want to start a podcast. That's not that business. You're doing that at the expense of your business because it serves you, right?
Sure.
Whereas if you look at a franchise, not only the buyer, but like what we build for our folks is like we built everything in this with this one end goal in mind, which is to be the best absolute service possible to the market segment that's chosen us. And if we're going to innovate or do anything crazy, it's going to happen within that box.
Sure.
If that makes sense, right? It's just a different lens. And I think it's encouraging for a franchisee to hear that like we get that, or a potential franchisee or candidate, that we get that and we're building it for that reason. And yes, it's cool to own a fitness business, but keep in mind, there's a gap in the market. We're relevantly fitting into that gap, and that's how we're going to help you make money. And then you can feel good that you're helping people, and put your head on the pillow at the end of the night. And if you're an independent owner, man, really stress test, are all the things that you're doing necessary, or is it just things to feed your ego or your personal likes and dislikes?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad to be passionate about those things. Let's, make sure that's not taken the wrong way. It's not bad. It's great. I mean, it shows to your clients. But when you have all these conversations, you have them all the time with business owners, how do you keep them straightened back out? I mean, how do you keep them on going all those niches and sideways?
Well, you really can't, because it's like their personality and the way they're wired is manifesting itself in their business.
Yeah.
And so like they have to grow personally. I mean, like we've talked about this. I read a great quote recently, and it was like, entrepreneurship is a personal development journey disguised as business. And I think that's true, certainly as the independent, operator. So if you opened your first gym at 25 and it was all you, and you didn't take business classes and you didn't understand, you didn't have a business plan, you just you're literally just, we see that like scattershot until you hopefully find your lane. The risk of that is that anything that you get into, or any kind of like, again, new ideas that you have, and they'll not even be in the same lane, right? It's like, well, I'm starting this small fitness business, but a friend of mine wants to start this supplement company, so I'm gonna go in with him on that. And I'm gonna do this t-shirt online company, and I'm like, what are you doing? Put all of that energy into the thing, right? Into the machine. But it's hard to do that and visualize how to do that if you didn't build it for that reason. If you really built it because it's serving your ego, and it's taking all your personal needs and wants and insecurities and ego, and you're putting those things onto your business, which typically is not good for the business. In a lot of ways, it breaks it, or it distracts from it, right?
Right.
Whereas when you look at a franchise candidate, one of the things I've noticed is when they come to the table, they're talking about market conditions. Is there a gap in the market? If they recognize the same gap and it makes sense and the business model works, the machine that's built services that market well, and they recognize that, that's why they get into it. It's like you fall in love with it after, right?
Right.
And then it just makes a better owner, to be honest, because they don't have all these crazy ideas on all these, hey, what if we did, again, multi-level marketing, nutrition stuff, and this. I'm like, just stay focused, right? Like,
keep the main thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's so difficult, right? For everyone, especially for entrepreneurs, especially if they're independent and they created the business and they don't want to admit it, but they really created it to be an outlet for their crazy personality, not to serve.
I mean, you opened this thing 30 years ago. What was your crazy outlet?
Well, no, for me, it was like I didn't want to travel around anymore. So remember, I was making my living going to different gyms and then training people in their homes. And so I just was really tired of like driving from place to place. And I thought, well, this is a centrally located like facility for where I'm doing business. If I could get people to come to me, I could just stand in one place and train people back to back to back to back. Plus, I could create like a customer experience around it, right? Like I could put the type of things that my clients wanted, like towel service, and because it's a higher end service, right? So it was efficiency, and it was creating an environment that would be ideal for the service that I was delivering. And I mean, at some point, like our marketing got a little wacky. I always joke about like all the things that we thought we did, but they were still within the box. So I think for me, I always knew like this is our core business. I don't have any aspirations to do anything outside of this. Now, I will say, and I get this a lot from folks too, because I've done a lot of speaking in the industry, and I've been really fortunate to be able to do keynote talks and be on the Perform Better circuit and speak at all kinds of crazy events, right? Business events. And I love it. I really do. But it doesn't, unless I had a business on the back end of it, I would admit that I wouldn't do it anymore, right? Because it's not the best use of my time. And here's what I mean. Once we started a licensing business, I would take any speaking gigs that were speaking to a crowd that would be a good target audience for our licensing.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that's listening, like, do I have a passion for speaking? Yeah, anything you want to do well. You want to get up in front of people, and being able to communicate ideas clearly is a very valuable skill in sales or in any other area of your life. So yes, it's a valuable skill to have. But the only reason I was out there speaking was because I had a product, like, hey, if you like what you heard, there's a booth right outside the door, go buy it. And we literally built our company on that's our marketing, outlet. Well, as soon as we pivoted to franchising, I cut like 90% of those out.
They did.
Like, hey, you want to come speak at this event? Like I did it for my buddy Tim early this year because he's a cool dude and he's a friend of mine. And I'm like, yeah, okay, it's cool. But I had no delusions that I went there to build a business. And if I had had another opportunity at that time, like a franchise conference or something, I would take that.
Right.
Even if I wasn't speaking. Why? Because my main goal right now is to work within this box, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say that because I talk to young gym owners and they're like, hey, what do I do to start speaking? How do I get on the Perform Better circuit? I'm like, why do you want to do that? Like, if you don't have something to sell on the back end other than feeding your ego, what is this going to do for you? Because I can tell you right now,
the cool kids are doing it, man.
Well, I guess it's the FOMO, right? Because the 200 or 300, 400 members you have in your gym, they don't care if you're speaking or not. They just want to have a great experience every time they come in.
They'd quite honestly rather you be there.
100%. So, Mr. Big Pants, get on and get all that stuff. So why don't you just stay focused on that?
Right.
Right. So it's just something for you guys to think about. And I think for potential franchise candidates, it might be surprising to know that independent owners sometimes do that, get a little scattered and build things just to feed their wacky personality. And I think the question is always, who does your business serve and why? And if you can just stay focused on that, it's going to give you a huge leg up. And I will tell you that the savvy business folks, which are, again, the candidates that we're getting franchising, they recognize that. And they have no preconceived notions about getting in there and like, oh, we could do this, or oh, yeah, we could do that. Let's do this. It's like, no, they're just like, tell me the play. I want to run the play. Right. I want to get a return on my investment. Right. And yeah, I'm really happy that I'm going to get to help my community as a side note. But that's it. Leave it at that. And we'll innovate within that, but we'll let everything else go. And I would encourage anyone else to do the same that's listening.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I hope it didn't sound too negative, like, hey, don't be a dumbass, and don't if you have mental disorders, don't get into small business because your business will look that way. But that's kind of what I'm saying.
All right.
In the nicest way ever, don't do that. But yeah, that's what I hope to articulate today without sounding like a grumpy old guy.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you guys next time. See you.